I'm Euan Lloyd. I have a Bachelor of Arts with honours in psychology from UWA. My research was on emotions and how they unfold in daily life and how they relate to various internalising disorders, and I completed all of that in 2020. I just vividly remember watching the grainy recordings of the Stanford prison experiment in high school and thinking, wow, like psychology is much more in depth than just growing a beard and talking to someone on a velvet fainting couch. And I thought, wow, there's this science behind it that guides all the practice that you actually do on a personal level with people. I think that was it quite opened my eyes to the method and the rigor that goes behind psychology. And that made me realize, I think, I wanted to be able to actually not just practice it, but be good at it and actually kind of master that craft. Well, two reasons really. The boring one is you need to do honours to go into most postgrad study for psychology, so I had to do that. But the other one was I kind of got little tastes of it throughout undergrad and really enjoyed how it ran, and I really wanted to be part of the research process more fully. And ultimately as well, even if your goal is to just go into clinical practice, it's fundamental knowledge, knowing how research comes about, because so much of what we practice and what we actually implement in the community comes, of course, from research. Yeah, pretty straightforward actually. The School of Psychology has a list of available supervisors, and I just scrolled through, made a little short list of people I was interested in based on their research topics and maybe other things if you'd seen them in lectures and stuff before. And then it was just a case of sending emails out with a bit of info about myself, what I was interested in, how we might align with our interests, and then meeting up with people who were willing to take me. The other thing was attending prospective student nights, or honours information nights. That really helped as well get a good idea of what was available, what the kind of expectations were. So yeah, that all culminated, and yeah, it was actually quite a straightforward process once I got into it. Probably myself actually, namely poor time management and organisation. But as the demands of honours increased, I kind of was forced to meet them. And this was involved overriding lifelong habits of really poor organisation. So yeah, using a diary is a pretty mundane task for most people, but for me it was a grand achievement. And yeah, I think I'm better off because of it, and it was good to know that I could face that challenge. Of course it wasn't always perfect, but yeah. That good work takes time, I found, especially with something like honours, which is something or your thesis especially, something you have quite a lot of ownership over. And really, in a large part, it is a lot of your work. So I found that the bits that I spent a lot of time on, I really look back on proudly, and then I sometimes look back at the bits which didn't spend so much time on, and I go, a bit questionable, but that was definitely what I learned, that it's nice to have something to look back on and go, yeah, I really put a lot of time and effort into this. Definitely, I put the brakes on in the mid-semester break, which is good, great to unwind and really disconnect and just have a period of doing nothing. But then my downfall was speeding back up again when semester 2 started. It was quite easy to just kind of linger in holiday mode, just go to the lectures, do the required stuff, but the thesis kind of took a bit of a backseat, and then I found myself having to kind of recover that time later on down the field. Yeah, the pretty standard stuff, having hobbies, sports, friends, ways to disconnect fully from uni. Of course, they're always really helpful, especially setting set times to disconnect, such as maybe don't work on the weekends or at a certain time of night. The other thing that I found quite helpful was knowing when to stop and when to keep going. So sometimes I might be up at 1 in the morning trying to really finish off a big chunk of work. And some nights I'd be great, I'd get heaps done, but other nights it's good to know, okay, maybe I should just put this away, come back to it tomorrow, and start afresh the next day. So yeah, knowing that I had the next day to start again was something that kind of kept me grounded a little bit. Yeah, so the couple of days before the submission were pretty hectic. I think I ended up getting about 4 hours sleep for the whole 2 nights before. Yeah, submitting right on the dot, nice, good. My file was corrupted, so I had to quickly take that off, re-put it up, email some people. Yeah, it was a pretty stressful experience, especially putting those finishing touches on it. You've read through a 50+ page document about 50 times, so you can kind of go all blurs into one thing where you can't really see your mistakes anymore. But yeah, it was got it in, bit of an adrenaline boost after submitting it, and a bunch of us that all finished honours at the same time caught up at the TAV, and yeah, had a nice drink to celebrate. So overall a positive experience despite not much sleep being had. Yeah, I think it does. Looking back at the units that I really tried hard in, I think the evidence is there, and vice versa, there's some which maybe I didn't put all my effort into, and I kind of shows. So yeah, especially when looking at it as a whole, it overall does reflect my ability, I think. Definitely pick a research topic that you love or you're interested in. You kind of I've heard stuff just before going in that you kind of have to do something you already know a little bit about, things like that. But I definitely didn't find that was the case. I think if you enjoy something, you're going to want to put more effort into it anyway. And even if you're not sure what you're interested in, honours is only a year, which obviously makes it quite hard and fast, but also it's really good for dipping your toe into something that you think you might be interested in and seeing if it's for you and if you want to continue in it. Yeah, honours was probably the best academic experience I've ever had, but in saying that, probably wouldn't do it again. It was a very intense year, and I think it goes so quick that felt like I was trying to learn what I had to learn in order to put it down onto paper, rather than learning for me to become, a mini expert on the topic. But yeah, so definitely interested in doing research again somewhere down the track, but honours was a very fast year. Practicing as a clinical psychologist is definitely the goal. It always has been for a long time for me, and I think it really would be a culmination of all the base level stuff you learn in undergrad, some more higher level things you might learn in honours, as well as research experience, especially if you've got like clinical relevance in the research, it's quite good. And then of course, whatever experiences happen in postgrad.